State partnership program. We've got a great partnership program with Ghana since 2004. Continues to grow, and we've got several events going on again this year. On the air side, I think, if I remember, it was 2008 when we did a Med flag in Ghana. I think it was 2008. And this year, the Army is going to be involved in a Med flag in Ghana. That'll be in the July time frame, and I think we're going to end up taking 20 or 30 of our soldiers to participate in that program. And our reason for being able to do that is because of the state partnership. And there are a lot of other missions going on, exchanges between Ghana and and North Dakota, and it's a great program. It's a diplomacy program in the truest sense, because no matter where you are, if you have two countries at war, the two elements that can communicate and know what each other is saying are the two militaries. And that's why this is a diplomacy program that brings together the military, the National Guard of a state, and the military of a country, and they begin the process of building that relationship. And our role is to support a stable, in this case, democracy in the country of Ghana. Unfortunately, and I know several others were very disappointed, we had put in a pitch for a second partnership with Kosovo. And the announcement was made earlier this week that Iowa is going to be the partner. And I talked personally to General McKinley and others, and we were in the mix till the very end. The only reason we didn't get it, I was told, is Iowa does not have a partner. And I think there are only 2 states, 2 or 3, that don't have partners. A couple do have 2 partners. But Iowa saw the success of other states. They wanted a partnership. And they're the ones that were selected for Kosovo. I did learn that Uzbekistan is up for grabs. Anybody interested in Uzbekistan? Anybody know where it's at? There we go. Okay, we got somebody. We'll sign you up afterwards. You can be our BAO, our Bilateral Affairs Officer. But there will be other opportunities. Air Guard missions, just a couple of things there. Number 1, C-27 is still on track. We should see it assigned to Fargo, a couple of tails assigned to Fargo in late 2012, early 2013. There's a push right now to advance that a little bit, and hopefully that'll happen. We're expecting 4. I know individuals are beginning to be trained for the C-27. We, as Adjutants General, are pushing to try to increase that number to 6 in each state. There are 7 states that will have C-27, and I've been told that having 8 is a good number from the efficiency standpoint. So right now 4 are on their way to North Dakota. We hope to be able to increase that to 6, and it is a high demand aircraft. Another on the Air Guard side, we're working towards the launch and recovery element for the Predator at Grand Forks, and that would be an element of about 50 airmen. There's a lot of question about the future of Grand Forks. Right now, Grand Forks is going to get 2 Global Hawks this year. I think the first one's arriving in June. The bigger UAV, much bigger than and much more capable than the Predator. So, at this point, Grand Forks has been identified as an air base to grow from the standpoint of remotely piloted aircraft and systems. And part of the reason for that is there's some real opportunities from an airspace initiative standpoint. Plus, the University of North Dakota, the Aerospace Center, has done a lot in the area of unmanned aerial vehicles and unmanned aerial systems. And I don't see Grand Forks going away anytime soon. Now, having said that, we're about to go through another BRAC, base realignment, whatever it's called, BRAC, in the next couple of years. And at that point, everything's on the table. But I see us pushing for that launch and recovery element at Grand Forks. There still is talk of the new tanker. That was the new Boeing tanker, is it KX-46? 46 Alpha? Yeah. Those aren't going to roll off the assembly line until 2017, but Grand Forks is still in the mix there. And we have, myself and others have advocated, maybe there's an opportunity for an association between the North Dakota Air National Guard and the Grand Forks Air Force Base as they fly the new tanker. So it's, stay tuned, we'll keep working towards that. Army Guard Aviation, just a couple of quick notes. I think as we speak, we have, Dave, we have 5 Blackhawks on the ground today, or 4? Anyway, yeah, I know, that's what I every day I find it out, but we should have 5, actually we should have 6 aircraft Blackhawks on the ground by the end of the month, with eventually 4 more to come in the course over the course of the next several months, maybe hopefully by the end of the year. Just one item of note, that's more than we've ever had, and it's my intent that we will locate 2 or 3, maybe 4 of them, depending on what how we can arrange this, in Fargo. And we're working to looking at the base right now at Hector to see what possibility is there. But really, when you think about it, if we have 10 aircraft, 10 Blackhawks, we need to have a capability in the eastern part of the state where the greater population is, as well as the west. So that's in the planning stages, and I hope that certainly materializes soon. The UH-72, the Lakota helicopter, which will replace the OH-58. Those are on their way, and I think 2014 is when we're scheduled to begin to see those. That'll be a great asset for us. The other thing I just mentioned, the C-12, that's an ongoing discussion with the active component. Why does every state need a C-12? And there's a lot of detail in the debate. Lastly, on this slide, the 164th RTI. We had a great ribbon cutting on the RTI last August. We have trained hundreds, thousands of soldiers since then. Airmen have taken advantage of it too. Much of the focus has been engineers. We're now expanding to food services, and the RTI is, it's truly a jewel on the prairie at Camp Grafton, and it just people come and marvel at what we have, and marvel at the skill set and the capacity that we have as instructors to train young soldiers and airmen as well. All right, now as I said earlier, we had a number of questions submitted for electronically, and we got a couple people that are going to ask questions. There we go. I'll try to answer them.
Will North Dakota be able to maintain its current units, Army and Air, along with current end strength?
The answer to that question, will we be able to retain our current strength? I truly believe the answer is yes. Now, on both the Army and Air, we're at about 95, 96% of strength. So we have we have room for growth. But on the Army side, I know we continually are looking at force structure, what more we can trade for to ensure that we have the mission sets for our state active duty project or missions, as well as federal. And on the air side, as I explained a minute ago, there's a lot happening there. When we stood up the 219th at Minot, that was a great opportunity for us. But at this point, there's no indication that we are going to be losing any of our force structure. And I know on the air side, we're short some manpower. Good news this week at the TAG, at the AGAUS meeting, General Wyatt put out the concept of manpower to missions, and North Dakota was used as an example. And basically what he said is, I have this concept where we wouldn't move more than 10% of the manpower allocation from one unit in another state to another unit that needs the manpower for its mission. So it's something that's really been unheard of, and the general response from the TAGs is that that's a good concept. So I think we'll be able to retain our force structure. I see us growing on the air side because we have some very pertinent missions, very relevant missions. On the Army side, I think we're going to be able to do the same there and maintain our force structure.
General Sergeant Erickson here. Question from the Army: with some of the smaller communities continuing to lose population and very few soldiers actually living in those communities, is North Dakota National Guard looking at closing some of those armies in the coming years?
The answer to the question in simple terms is yes, we are looking at it. We do, and you pointed out very well. We've got a couple of communities where we don't even have a single soldier living in the community. Now, that the communities I'm talking about are those in the southwest part of the state. We've seen the migration of people, changing the demographics, and we're looking at how can we best support the training of our soldiers across the state. And that always becomes a very sensitive issue, closing an armory. But we are looking at it. I've had some conversations with, I've mentioned it briefly to the governor and also to some of the legislators in that area. And it's the sort of thing that you have to sort of you allow to evolve. It doesn't happen overnight. But as I look down the road in the coming years, right now we have armories in 24 communities. I see a point in time where we're not going to be able to support 24. And part of it is what you described, the number of soldiers that are actually in that area. Part of it becomes a resourcing issue from an efficiency standpoint. The chief talked about what's on the horizon. In 2012, we should be okay, but in 13, 14, 15, we're going to have to become more efficient in what we do and in stretching the federal dollar. And that may very well, it will be part of the consideration for which armories we continue to maintain and which we have to close or move elsewhere.
Sir, you mentioned money. With budget talks focusing on less money in future years, will this impact the North Dakota Guard? If so, what will be the fallout?
There's no question that we're going to see a tremendous, I don't know if tremendous is the right word. We're going to see a change in availability of fiscal resources for every state. One of the comments that was made earlier in the week is that there are many that believe, and this is true in the military as well as outside the military, that the greatest threat facing this nation today is its fiscal condition. We are almost a bankrupt nation, and something has to give. And where there may have been a point in time where the military was looked at and everything was done to support the military. What I think we're going to see is that in the coming next several years, we're going to have no choice but to become more efficient because we're going to have fewer resources available to us. Now, what does that mean? I honestly can't tell you right now because I don't know. But I do know that we're going to have to look very carefully at what we do from a manpower standpoint. We've already seen a minor shift in allocations in full-time support. We're going to have to be very cognizant of how we train, making sure that we train wisely and efficiently. So yes, I see less fiscal resources available to us in the coming years. I just don't know what the full impact's going to be, but my assurance to you is we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we meet that our ongoing mission statement, and that is providing ready units, individuals, and equipment for our state, community, state, and federal mission.
General, in regards to the mobilizations, what is the policy regarding mobilizing both parents at the same time for deployment? By the way, in case you're wondering, these two are plants out there. They've been given all the questions. They didn't dream these up themselves. I mean, I know they got a lot on their mind, but what we decided to do is these are some of the questions that were sent in electronically. The question of those situations where we have both the husband and the wife, the mother and father, in a unit or in two units where they may be deployed. I think we all know and understand that as a soldier, as an airman, we have to have a family care plan. How is our family going to be taken care of in the event we're mobilized and deployed? When both the mother and father are subject to deployment, they have to have a family care plan that's going to provide for their children. Now, just last summer, a year ago, we had two situations where, in both instances, the father was deployed to Djibouti, and the mother was deployed to Kosovo. And in both instances, there were children.
I know in the one case, the children stayed with the grandparents. The grandparents actually came here from Montana. In the other instance, I think there was also a family member that was involved. Those were very good examples of family care plan. If there are, excuse me, mothers and fathers that are out there that don't have a truly legitimate family care plan, my advice is you may have to think about, if I'm in that situation, what am I going to do? Because you have volunteered to be a soldier, be an airman. You have, said that I will do whatever is asked of me from a mission standpoint. And granted, we do consider hardship, and we would look at that in that instance. But I think it's a disservice to the National Guard as well as to the to those members if they don't have a family care plan that they feel comfortable with, that they know their children will be safe, and they know that when they return home safely, they can reintegrate into the family and things will continue as is. So we'll look at a situation like that, but I would never stand up here and say that we will not deploy both parents if they if they are members of a unit that is subject to an ongoing or an upcoming deployment.
General, in terms of state active duty, if a soldier serves in state active duty more than 2 weeks, can that be excused from annual training?
The question regarding someone coming on to state active duty for an extended period, more than 2 weeks, which we saw that in 09, and then the requirement for them to attend annual training. That becomes a commander's call first. And what I would encourage commanders is to look at that very carefully, because we ask a lot of our soldiers, we ask a lot of our airmen, and if they have, if their employer and their family has allowed them to come on to state active duty for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we need to recognize that. And maybe for this year, when annual training occurs, we're going to have to, we're going to have to make do without that individual because they've already given quite a bit. Now, you could argue, and state law says, there is protection of state law, it was passed in the last session, that says an employer has to allow their soldier, airman, their employee to go on to state active duty for 20 days in a calendar year. And that in itself is very liberal, but very important. But if we put somebody on state active duty for 20 days, 4 weeks, and then we expect them to go to 2 weeks of annual training, we could force the issue with the employer, but that does not create a good relationship and a good image in the mind of that employer. So in those instances where someone has come on to state active duty and they have a difficult, not a difficult, but a challenging situation with their employer, I would encourage the commander, company commander, unit commander, to recognize that as a hardship, and this year maybe that individual can't go to annual training with the unit.
On the same subject, General, what happens if the unit is called up for state active duty flood ops and they cancel AT? Will there be opportunities like the Vigilant Guard to make up for that AT?
If, and we saw this in 06, excuse me, 09, I'm sorry, and there were situations where annual training had to be canceled because the unit was deployed or on state active duty. And the best assurance I can give you is we would do everything we could to allow an individual other opportunities. And Vigilant Guard is a good example. We're still in the process of figuring out exactly what the final document, the manning document will be, but we know we're going to need other soldiers, other airmen to help out, and then there are other things that happen too throughout the year. So if we have a situation like that, I'm just trying to think of how best. I think through the command, the soldier, the airman needs to let the commander know that they're available for for additional duty. Given the fact they missed annual training, and on those duty days from a retirement standpoint become a consideration as well. We're going to want to try to take care of that individual. We're going to want to try to provide them additional opportunities, and they are out there.
This relates to two things you've just talked about briefly. A question from the field. We know state active duty is part of the mission. Why is there no protection for members of the North Dakota National Guard who serve on state active duty, such as you, Sarah? In addition, while on state active duty, we only have the ability to claim workers' compensation and have no coverage for families. How is that taking care of members? is there a change coming to the coverage for soldiers or airmen on state active duty?
Okay, on the former part of that question, in 2009, we went to the legislature. We did put into place, the legislature agreed, had an emergency clause, did put into place, in essence, a state USERRA. And that state USERRA does provide for 20 days of state active duty for the soldier airman. So if there is an issue there, I'd encourage that individual, that soldier, that airman, to bring it up. We can work that through the ESGR chain. That's the federal piece, but still, our ESGR people should be very familiar with the state USERRA, and it's not called USERRA, but it's, in essence, it's the same thing, what that says. As far as the second part of it, that is a difficult situation for us. Every employer may be different in terms of what they do to continue with insurance for their employees if they go on state active duty. We are not in a position to provide health care coverage. We are seeking, and I explained earlier, the legislative initiative to pay those out-of-pocket expenses for certain types of illnesses and injuries. The one thing I'd encourage is everyone in this room is eligible for TRICARE Select, Reserve Select, for themselves for $50 a month. It's a great deal. So if someone is going to be on state active duty, you could buy that, but it only goes into effect on the 1st of the month. Now on the 30th or 31st of the month, you can buy it, and the next day it's in place. So I think the soldier airman needs to recognize that. Family coverage becomes a little more expensive. I think it's right now about $190 a month. We have had some discussions about, is there a way for us to easily pay that premium for the soldier or airman? And we haven't quite figured out an easy way to do it just because of the timing for it. So we've taken the first step. Hopefully the legislature will agree. It's appropriate for us to pay those out-of-pocket expenses, reimburse them. As we look to the future, we'll continue to look at what else we might be able to do or seek from the legislature in terms of health. It really becomes health care while on